Hey guys, Ace here. Welcome to Friends You Haven't Met. For today's episode, I'm introducing you to my friend Lauren Garces. She's a fellow event producer, artist, and community organizer, and someone I've had the great pleasure of knowing since I was just a wee teenager going to high school in Oahu. Lauren owns the event production agency Social Artistry and is a staunch advocate for cultural diversity and community engagement. And through her event work, she is passionately dedicated to creating platforms to further both. We had an incredible discussion on the value of community building, the nuances of cultural identity, and what it means to tap into your own avatar state, and just so much more. It was truly an enlightening and impactful conversation, so I'm really excited to share with you. So I hope you enjoy, and thanks for watching. First of all, welcome Lauren Garces to Friends You Haven't Met. That was a very natural start to everything. But yeah, I just wanted to start, like, how would you describe what you do with your career, which is very much a passion as well? Because I can imagine it's like not very straightforward, right?
Yeah, it never is. And I think all the paths we go on are never going to be fully straightforward as much as we want to try and lay it out. But I think for myself, I consider myself an artist and creator, and that my medium that I choose is event production and event artistry. My company is called Social Artistry, so I've really taken it to the aspect of like the way that we're creating these events, it's an art, and then the way that we have these social interactions with people layers into that. And for myself, the reason I created it is because I think we can tackle some of the most like challenging issues in our communities and society through doing things like events, doing things like how are we connecting people socially, and then the artistry of like creating that experience for them and those places for them. So that's, I think, in short term.
Right, case in point. That's like, even that was a very good answer. Also not straightforward, but I mean, I think it's incredible what you do. And actually, like, I want to back up real quick because I wanted to start with like, we know each other from high school, which is crazy. And I was talking to my girlfriend yesterday. She was just asking about like, who are you interviewing tomorrow? And I was like, it's just a friend of mine, Lauren. We both went to high school in Hawaii. We both ended up at San Diego State, and we both ended up in event production. And I've just kept up with her career, and now she's like doing really cool stuff. So I wanted to ask you, like, do you have, because we're 32, dude, which is like a thing that's like, it's such a prominent kind of thought to me lately. It's like, wow, we are entering this different kind of maturity. I've also been like all up in reflection and stuff lately, but definitely feeling this sense of completedness as I think back on we can say we have memories from decades ago, right? It's crazy to me that I can say, oh, I knew her 20 years ago, which is almost the case. I think we were like 16. Yeah. It's like 15 years ago. But what do you have an image? How do you remember me? To be like in high school.
I think you had hair to like your chin, dude.
Yeah.
And like I think we didn't really hang out during school, but I think we were in like an acting class or something together.
Oh my gosh, we were in that class together.
Yeah, that's a memory that I have, is like we were in this acting class, so obviously everyone has personalities.
Yeah.
But like you were the one that had like the hair to here, and then you like would bring your guitar sometimes. Oh and then you're like, I'm going to sing to everyone in the class. Everyone's going to join. And like, we had some like half circles going in the class, I think. So like, it's a distant, fun memory. I always knew you as like a performer. Like I knew you were into music. And I think that was like totally the time to do it too. 'Cause like YouTube was like blowing up and like everyone was like loving these like acoustic performers. And I think you were definitely like someone that our school did that, because I think we would see you like perform at different things on campus probably, or just our acting classes, I don't know, but that's like the imagery I think from back then I have. And then it's super cool again to like see our paths like parallel each other in events and like,
but not completely intersect, which is why I was like excited to sit down with you. I was telling when I was talking about you last night, I was like, we've been in the same line of work, and we've kept up with each other. Even went literally to the same college, but not once did our circles actually kind of overlap. We never worked together. Would love to one day. But other than attending the same school and doing the same work, it's like you said, it's been a parallel that hasn't quite intersected, which I think is kind of interesting. My memory is so bad. It's something I'm working on. Like my long-term memory is, I got to dig really deep. So forgive me for not, you remember in such vivid detail. Oh my gosh, that's embarrassing. I know why I don't remember that now. You know what's funny? Actually, I remember that acting class, and I like almost didn't pass. I got like a C. I remember barely making the cut. But yeah, we went to high school, and I think I remember being acquaintances and kind of like knowing a lot of the same people, but not quite hanging out. But what I will say is you look how I remember, which is great. You've entered your 30s.
Your hair
really
is up
good.
Here now.
Right, it's up here instead of down there. But I have a little surprise for you. I actually dug this up.
Oh no, is it our yearbook? Oh my god.
And right before, like literally when you texted me that you were here, I was digging through this, so I love my high school years. I'm gonna put this on screen in post, but that's
goodness. Which one?
Lauren Garces.
Why did I choose green?
And I folded the page a couple pages back. That's me with the hair that you were talking about.
Yeah, and I call you Angelo. So I know a lot of people in this era you're introduced as like Ace.
Yeah,
and I'm like, I still feel weird calling you Ace because
call me Angelo. To be honest, I feel weird that if you called me that. Yeah, feel free to call me Angelo. That's so funny.
These are so precious.
I know.
And then seeing all of us as babies, and I'm going back. I don't know if you go back too. Like a lot of our friends who still live there are like getting married or have these other milestones. And I'm gonna go back in October and celebrate Josh and Joy's wedding. Joshua Kainoa and Joy Anchetta. That she was one of the twins, if you remember her. Yeah,
right.
So she's wonderful. Yeah, and then Josh.
Wow, that just awakened some really old memories.
So yeah, I'm gonna go support and have fun with them at their wedding, and
that's awesome. I haven't visited since I left in 2008.
Oh my
goodness. It's been a long time. I've like wanted to, but for no particular reason, I just haven't gone. I think like, in my 20s, I was traveling with friends, and it just never made the itinerary. But I do have some friends that have since moved there, and like we're thinking about going sometime next year. I'd love to go, but I've heard it's like, I can't imagine I would recognize a lot of it. I've heard Kapolei has grown so much, like where that Costco was. Like apparently it's like there's that whole part of town is like now developed. When is the last time you went?
So my family still lives there. So I go back, like I've been basically going back every single year.
Really?
And then I tell people I feel very lucky when I get to go back like twice or more a year to see them. Some years allow me to do that. And so many great friends that still live there. They have families now. So it's like, it's so adorable. That's when you're like, oh wow, we're maturing because I'm gonna be auntie now. To them.
There was this happens more and more with my group of friends, but within my immediate, like my closest circle, there's now 3 kids. 2 of them just popped out like in the last year. So you're celebrating a first birthday pretty soon. And I hosted like a pool day here like a week ago. And I'm looking around and I'm like, dude, this is, there's like kids running around. Some of us are talking, some of us are drinking, some of us are in the pool. And then the kids running around, like chalking the walkway outside. And I'm like, dude, this is a family party now. Like they're playing and the adults are being loud over there and just like laughing at stuff that they don't understand. We're just like making noise to them, and everyone's having fun. And it's a crazy full circle moment that it's like, wow, this is happening. We're seeing it happen in real time, that we're becoming the adults, or we are the adults obviously, but it's a weird thing to see, like your kids have friends. And then I think with them too, so like for our friends, like seeing their kids, like their personalities in their children coming out is so funny and like silly to me. And then some of them like started becoming friends with each other and like texting each other, and I'm all like, are we making sure they're becoming best friends too? So it's funny you mention that, because like my two best friends, they both had a kid within like, I think it's like within 2 months of each other, 2 or 3 months of each other. And those two go back to high school. Like they were best friends in high school. Now they're both here, they're all friends, and now they both have kids and they're like growing up together. So I feel like that's everyone's kind of ideal scenario with their friends, and they're actually doing it. Oh, and I'm both of their godfathers too, so I get the joy of seeing them grow up, and like have the responsibility of guiding them. Are you Hawaiian?
No, I'm full Filipino.
Full Filipino?
Yeah.
You're from Hawaii? Like, you're born in Hawaii, though?
I was not. So I was born in California, but then I moved there when I was, like, right after first grade.
Okay.
So I attribute so much of my life, like, in Hawaii, because it was the years we were growing up and finding ourselves. Yeah. And then it was after high school that came to San Diego, same as you.
I want to go back to the work that you're doing now. It's a lot of conviction in it. There's, like, a lot of what seems like a responsibility to create some kind of net good for communities in your case, and like create platforms for cultural impact. Where does this responsibility come from in your journey?
Yeah, I think, and it's all related to like that story of, again, growing up surrounded by this like beautiful Pan-Asian, Pan-Pacific Islander culture that we had in Hawaii, and like really understanding like when all those melting pots come together and like they create space for each other and they make room for collaborations, like we see how beautiful of a community that Hawaii has tended and created. Yeah. And so again, I think being able to grow up in that, like in hindsight, like now I'm so grateful for that experience, because when I came to San Diego, that was when I had the culture shock of like, oh, we can be a minority. Like, I didn't understand that, like, over there.
Oh, my gosh, I have a similar experience to come back to, but yeah.
So, because of that, like, I think in short, like, I was really looking for, like, a home where my family was, where I belonged in, like, right when I entered into college. And so the communities that, like, really allowed me to, like, align with my values and share with each other was, like, our cultural communities. And, like, I got involved with, like, our cultural organizations on campus. And then I started also then getting involved with like community events. And so I think all of the work that I do is really stemmed from like, how do we create like that home and space of belonging for folks that when they come here, they're looking for it. And I think it's such a crazy like full circle moment for me, because I work like very closely with the Convoy District and help shape some of like what happens in the neighborhood. They're getting like the official designation as the Convoy Pan-Asian Cultural and Business Innovation District in 2022. For people to know that like our stories and our cultures and that representation matters, and marking it in history, while also giving people like something to look forward to in the future of like, how do I build and be part of that? So that's like some of the work that I do, but it's all really related back to like, I was always looking for a place that I belonged. I was fortunate to find that within like our Asian and Pacific Islander communities here. And then I felt that with my artistry of events, if I can contribute to that and shape that in some way and make those spaces for others, I think it's something that I just like want to keep honoring, because it was so meaningful to me to find those spaces coming here.
I was going through your Instagram, just kind of seeing what you've been up to lately. You did recently a few things I want to talk about, but let's start with the World Design Capital. Ooh. You mentioned in our pre-interview you literally said it feels like like a career high, and I think on your 32nd birthday. But let's talk about it. What was that, and what was the experience?
Yeah, I think, and I want to also put this like out into the world too. Like the way you manifest things, it's gonna come probably in like the most unexpected ways, but as soon as I had learned that, like, oh, World Design Capital is coming to San Diego, and also learning that this is probably the first time ever that they have a binational submission. So basically representing both the city of San Diego and our deep relationship with Tijuana. And then, I think a lot of the conversations already have continued to drive the fact home that it's just a line on the map. And that's also been dictated about, again, how our societies like acknowledge that line or work with that line, but the connection is still there across both sides. People work on both sides, people go to both sides. And so it was something that I wanted to be part of right off the bat. And I had applied for some of the positions to do events or do programming with them. But unfortunately, I didn't speak Spanish, so I think I wasn't the right fit. But by the universe's way, I think I had fortunately made an impression with the body of work, the intention that I have with creating spaces for communities, and especially our multicultural communities. And they had reached out to me saying that again, as everything's ramping up, the part that I'm working on, there's like 300 plus experiences in 1 week alone.
Wow.
And so supporting the team with that, they wanted to ramp up the team. And so fortunately, I'm able to work with them for the World Design Experience that's coming up in September. It's a week, and then they have this beautiful thing called the Exchange Pavilion at Balboa Park. And so it's right in the Plaza de Panama. It's this huge, beautiful piece of architecture by Helio. But they were working with designers from San Diego and Tijuana to create this beautiful conversation that allows a flow of dialogues, allows free, like 4 months of free programming in the space to uplift conversations of design, art, and how that can impact and change society and how we think about society. And so the fact alone that they got like these huge pieces of like material and like this structure from Tijuana across the border and then built it and erected it in Balboa Park, and then now we're going to have programming for 4 months like representing all the different regions in the community. Wow. It's just so fascinating. And I say this is like, it feels like the Olympic level of like this design community coming together, because again, I think they only choose a spot every 2 years, and they're never going to most likely choose the same spot again in our lifetime. And so we're really, I think so many people have trained in their craft, are ready to talk about it, are ready to showcase that in these experiences throughout the year. And that's why it feels like being part of like that Olympic level of creating and programming, because I see the importance of how people have worked at this for so long. And now this is a platform for then others to connect with people who have worked at their crafts at that same caliber and skill level. And so it's an honor for me to like be part of that team and just help uplift that in any way that I can.
Yeah, that is incredible.
Yeah.
So sorry, that is yet to happen. That's in September?
It's in September.
Got it. Okay, got it. And it's on your birthday. Is that what
no. So my birthday just happened.
Got it.
But I had received the contract around the same time. So I think I did a post that said like I'm entering my avatar state, because I really feel like I've just been going deep, going internal, like literally using everything that I've learned thus far in like the over decade that I've been doing events and doing community organizing and work, and like channeling that into like supporting and creating this really big, beautiful experience for all of us to be part of. So
that's incredible. Happy birthday, by the way.
Thank you, Leos.
Yeah. When's your actual birthday?
August 3rd.
August 3rd. Okay, it just happened.
Yeah.
All right. So you mentioned the avatar state from the show Avatar: The Last Airbender. Is something you mentioned in the pre-interview process, and I didn't want to make any assumptions as to what you meant by this, so I purposely didn't follow up. But for those that are watching or listening that have not seen Avatar: The Last Airbender, it is a state of where the main character basically taps into the spiritual energies of all of his predecessors that held the title of Avatar, who can control all the 4 elements and is like a peacekeeping force of divine nature, basically. So I didn't want to make any assumptions as to what you meant by this, but you said you're practicing tapping into this power. So I'll ask you here, what do you mean by that? Yeah,
well, I'm glad you summed it up in that way too, just as like a general context, because I haven't watched the show in so long, but I understand that state as, again, like it's a immense source of power, and it's like also immense like responsibility to tap into that. And again, it's based off the experiences of the fact that so many people came before you. So my like ancestors, even from the Philippines, like all the sacrifice and efforts that they made to get us to be here and allow that state for me to dream and create from it. I think it's tapping into stuff like that. I think it's also, again, like a huge responsibility and a discipline to have, like knowing that like you have this power to create in this way, but how are you going to use it? Because there's always a scenario of like they could use it in the wrong way or in a way that they hadn't intended to, and it affects so many people around them. But again, using it in the sense that hopefully you're bringing nations together in the process. So like, again, like even it just being like this binational conversation, and it's so very relevant, like, all of the different like hardships that our communities are going through and like trying to support. Like there's so many good friends that I know are doing work to support the migrants on the border and just being humane to them in the first place. And so again, I feel like it's a learning state at the same time, but it's also using that immense power that's within you to know that you can create something big beyond you at the same time that hopefully draws more peace and draws more like, I don't know, people coming together in that process. I don't know. I'm learning about it. And I think the fun thing about, like, Avatar is, like, they have the Aang era, right? And he's, like, a kid getting this power. And then, like, the next Avatar after that is, like, Korra. And she's, like, tackling it as, like, a teenager, like young adult. Yeah. So it's, like, almost, like, two different states of, like, how they're learning to navigate through that. But also, like, really just looking at the conversation around them and how they fit into all of that. And then there is a spiritual aspect to all of it too, of like really trusting the process and what that looks like. And so I think I do a lot of reflections also, just surrounding that, of just like, am I tapping into something that I'm really passionate about? Is it like, does it feel divinely like I'm like going on the right path? And I feel like I have those like thoughts late night with myself very often. And I have so many moments where I'll just be crying to myself, and I'm like, I feel like I'm exactly where I need to be and doing what I need to do, as hard as it is. Like, this is, again, like, imagine just training for the Olympics and, like, all the feelings that come with that. Like, it feels like that in the work that I do, and I'm, like, so grateful to have come to that point, because it really means, like, the decade of work and learning that I've had so far really has led me to like stand in the exact place that I need to be at to do this work too.
Do you consider yourself a spiritual person?
Yeah, I think so, in the sense that like, again, I believe in trusting the process. I believe in asking the universe for what it is that you want. And I'm also a believer in like the energy that you put out is what you're probably going to get back. Okay. And then until you like shift your perspectives in that realm, you're going to probably be in the same cycle, unless you like break it and all that fun stuff. So I do consider myself that. I grew up and went to Catholic private school thanks to my family. Okay. But then, yeah, I think the extent of it is I still go to like midnight mass with them when I'm home. Oh, cool. But I've like also, I feel like extended beyond that to like understand there's different routes to be spiritual. There's different routes to again tap into something bigger than yourself and hopefully for the greater good of others.
Just following up on the Avatar thing, I love so much of what you said, and there's like, you know, common themes about using your talents and this responsibility to use it in a way that uplifts people. I know I asked this earlier, I don't mean to be derivative, but you know, for a lot of people that do some kind of passion-based work or artistic work or work with some greater purpose, for a lot of people that comes from a place of pain, you know, like something happened or they grew up in such a way or they experienced something where they're like, I want to channel this energy to create some kind of good. And so I want to ask you again in another way, is that the case for you? Were there experiences that hurt you or that were born of some kind of suffering that made you go, you know what, we can't have this. We need to have events and programs that represent more people?
No, that's a really valid question. I'm glad we get to, I guess, think about and talk about that out loud together. Because yeah, I think I do this work because I work at being empathetic, and I think more people need to do that. Like, the sooner you understand where other people are coming from, what challenges they're going through, and then if there's a way that you can support with those challenges, like that alone is reason to try and do this work, because we're so privileged to be able to operate in this way. And every single privilege that we have has been afforded, unfortunately, because someone else has died to make that privilege possible. And especially being in America, right? But like, you know, I think a lot of people remove themselves from that conversation of like, we're all just trying to survive, period, in this lifetime. But I think, again, when you come to the point of thriving and understanding like how much you really have, and then at that point, how much you can then give back to helping others with like what you're so talented and great at, or just, again, time, talent, treasure that you can contribute to other people, it goes a long, long way. So I think I've just been around so many people that I've heard what their communities are going through. I've heard the challenges of us not being represented. And then also, I mean, I formed social artistry during the pandemic because we were seeing that rise, and specifically like anti-Asian hate, discrimination, violence. We were also having like a racial reckoning across America, recognizing the things in our system that we need to change and be radical and advocate for. And so all those different things of like, again, just trying to help other people that don't have the same privileges and are not afforded the same privileges as us. It's almost our duty and responsibility to do that. So that's one side. I think the aspect of like, I think we've all had like our pain and challenges in our lives. It's how we work through and heal from that and do better. We don't want to continue this cycle of like inflicting pain through other people. Why not channel it into something greater that'll help other people in the process? So I think of it in that sense. This wasn't a pain point for me really, but I grew up as an only child. So I think for me to find families and create chosen families in like so many different environments and communities is such a special thing. Like, for example, I was part of like Andres Bonifosio Samahan in college, and I was like, that was like the first time I had like a younger sibling, or I got an older sister or like older brother, like a kuya and ate. And I was like, wow, this is like such a special feeling to have, and I wanted to continue supporting that. So I think, I do try to like channel any pain that I have through like, one of them was like my family, like they told me I had to make it work essentially, as an event producer, and I had to like really prove myself of like,
I can relate,
and I wasn't like set to like one specific like agency or company at the time, but I was all like, I'm telling you, I'm going to carve this path and create it, and you just have to trust me. And so like at the time, of course, it was just like, can you? And then now that like with all the body of work, I like sharing articles with them of what I've been able to create, and like again, I feel exactly where I need to be. So
I can relate to that part about like having to prove yourself. It wasn't until last May that my parents came to my first event ever. They came to the Sun God Festival at the ripe old age at 31. They finally saw an event that I had done, and it did wonders for my validation. Even though at this point I had reconciled the process of getting their validation in this field. It started similar as you. It's very much like, what are you doing? Why don't you just join the Navy? And kind of just like, I had to prove that this need even existed, that there was even an industry, like this is work that I can do, first of all. So, you don't need to worry in that sense. Like, I'm not delusional. This is a thing that I can do as a living. But, they just because of where they've lived, and my dad was still in the military when I started and everything, they just have never come to an event. Has your parents come to like a program or an event that you've organized, or like at least played a role in?
I think they just came to like a press conference where like we were getting a grant for it. So like they saw the giant check and they're like, wow, you're getting like $10,000 for your community event. I don't know. They came to one of those. I still would love for them to be at these events, but my mom like vicariously lives through my like social media. And so like when I post, she will like love everything and then also reshare it. And so for my mom, I'm so grateful because she really like allowed me to spread my wings. And then so many of our families, they hold it down for us to be able to fly. Like they hold the nest down. They take care of she's taking care of her parents, my grandparents in Hawaii, and they're just like, she just called me earlier today and was like, Lauren, I know you're busy, but I just wanted to leave a message to you to know that we're so proud. We see like the videos and work that you're doing, and just know that we're supporting you. And like,
that's incredible.
So she's always here with me in spirit. And then when I always go home, I like share with them more of that. I think the extent we've done is like planning like my best friend's like bachelorette or like wedding party, and then I'll be there again in October for the wedding, and my mom will get to see me operate a little bit in that sense. And anytime I'm home, like a lot of this work is just like answering emails and being on your computer and answering Zoom.
It's the planning part of the event planning.
So they'll just like be hovering around me as I'm like taking some of those meetings
what you doing?
In Hawaii. And like, and then they're after, you want to eat? And like, but my mom is always here with me in spirit, and she's the artist also, and I feel like it's almost like continuing that like dream of hers. She's like imbued in me that everyone's an artist, and you just have to see your craft as that way. And so I think being able to do what I do, it's a reflection and just also just a direct like connection to her and honoring what she does. And then my dad is like sort of the business side of it all too. And so I feel that, again, I'm very much like the daughter and granddaughter of all of them, and like their dreams are sort of living on in the work that I do in different ways. And like it's a beautiful thing for our generation to show them what's possible, because for them, a lot of sacrifice, a lot of just being able to raise us and like survive in this new environment that many of them came to, and build something for the family. And that's such an honorable thing. And then again, for us to like take that dream and like show them again, like, we can do more.
Right. Now that we're here, now that you got us here, like, this is what we're going to do with this chance that you afforded us. So I wanted to ask you a question about cultural identity and like the work that you do. So in my experience, I went most of my life thus far unable to reconcile my American citizenship with my Filipino heritage. Is that something that you've dealt with, or like either personally or something that you've spoken to? And what would you say to someone that is experiencing that right now, that perhaps just doesn't, that thinks that those two things are mutually exclusive, but here you are working in a way where you're showing like they're not, they, you know, one can be celebrated, and in a way they don't have anything to do with each other, but at the same time they're very much intertwined, and there's a way that we can celebrate all of these things here.
Yeah, we are multidimensional people. We are a collection of our experiences and the different identities that we are part of along the way. And I think if anyone has to ever like push one part of themselves down and aside, like they should reevaluate that, because it's something that they should, it's part of you. It's something that you should be completely proud of. And I think even our parents' generation, again, that was coming here, they were assimilating, that they felt that they needed to push that aside because they didn't want to like be looked at in a bad way. And they faced a lot of racism, honestly, too, in the process. But for our generation to openly tell people that we need to be proud of this, we shouldn't be putting others down because of these different things that make us all beautiful. Like, I think it's something that, again, we need to keep drawing attention to. And I think your story will resonate with a lot of people, because, again, like, we all find it at different stages of our lives, how we connect with our culture, with our identities more and more. And there's so many identities and our cultures to explore within ourselves. But, like, I don't speak Tagalog. I don't speak Ilocano. My family speaks both in different ways. They told me that they didn't think they needed to teach me it because, one, it was hard, and then that they didn't think I would use it. But like, I feel like I connect with my culture in other ways, whether it be the spirit of being with a community. I think that's a big part with us, especially in the Philippines, like the bayanihan that we create with each other, the community sense. And you probably felt it when you were in the Philippines. You just, the village like acts and works with each other and supports each other, and it's just so ingrained within us, even if we've been removed from it for so long. You just know that it's deep down something that is part of your identity once you feel it and you're part of it. And so I think that's why it's beautiful for our cultural organizations across the U.S. to exist and create those spaces for others, because it allows us to tap into it in all the places that we've been able to migrate to. And so, although I don't speak the language, and it's something I would love to do, I think it's something that we can continue to learn about. And like Professor Jojo, who I'm good friends with, he's also mentioned the fact, and my other good friend Kathleen, they've mentioned that culture is like always shifting and changing, and it's always being contributed to in different ways. And it's like, it's our special right to be able to contribute and uplift that in the process, and like, again, honor everything that our like past generations have left us with, but also then interpret it and showcase it in different ways for the community. And so I think I love the evolving aspect of it. Like, it doesn't have to be like, this is how it looks like, this is what it looks like. I think especially our Filipino community has like done an amazing job of like, we're going to keep pushing that narrative forward. We're going to keep creating our stories that we want to share with others. We're going to keep sharing our culture in that process, whether it be through food, film, TV and media, the paintings that we create, the stories that we have with each other. And like, again, like, we're now like pushing that envelope of what culture looks like and sharing that with the world. And I think if anything, like it's so representative of like why I love Hawaii so much. It's because all those blending of cultures coming together, being proud of those cultures, and then like again how that like transpires and evolves is such a beautiful thing. So never ever push that like side down of yourself. I think we all deserve to be proud of who we are, where we came from, and like don't feel bad about like learning about it on the journey. It's part of the process, and like it's just amazing that you're taking that step towards learning it.
Yeah, I love that, and I can relate so much. I found that so much of my lack of cultural identity came from my own closed-mindedness to it. Like when I went to the Philippines earlier this summer, I found that literally just changing my mindset, accepting that, you know, these are people that I am related to, and it might feel unnatural at first, or I might feel like an outsider, but I just need to go through the motions, however unfamiliar they may seem, and, you know, kind of start to accept in my head that this is part of my heritage. And what you said about culture being dynamic, that's something I read recently, or I learned recently from a book called Where I Belong. And this clicked a lot for me when they said culture is dynamic and you own it as much as your parents and their parents. Even if you don't know the customs and the language, you don't need to understand the language to understand the people. And you are part of that group. Like, you can contribute to that culture by way of however you live your life. And that had a profound effect on me. I was like, I never thought about it that way. I always thought I had to be a certain way or eat a certain way or talk a certain way to consider myself Filipino. And now I'm looking at it as like, no, I am Filipino, and I can contribute to it through my actions. I have complete control of how I contribute to this beautiful tapestry, which is my cultural heritage. So I love that so much. I wanted to see if you've noticed a change in the way that people value community over the years because of world events. And I feel like it feels like the tone of society has changed. And I feel like it can go both ways. Like, on one hand, we've become lonely and disconnected. And I can see people are like yearning for that community. They want to be around people that they can relate to, because it feels like the world outside it can be unforgiving. On the other, we've also become, distrusting. We don't trust our own institutions anymore, right? Like our own president, our own news outlets. It's this feeling of like, we don't know what's real, what's important anymore. We kind of got to all figure that out for ourselves. So this is a big question, but have you observed any change in the way that people value that community?
I think the value in the sense, it has increased in the sense that like it's so valuable and necessary to find community. Like, we felt what it felt like to be isolated during the pandemic and what it was to be like physically separated from each other, and then again running amok of figuring out, well, how are we going to keep others safe in the process while also doing the things that we still want to do. And just having and grappling with those conversations with like, it affects all of us. It's not just us alone that we need to worry about. So I think whether we want to or not, we all are integrated into community in some way, shape, or form. I think the thing that I find beautiful about community is like when it does create a sense of belonging and a space for people to feel safe and their most authentic selves and support each other. I say it's more critical than ever to build and support communities, especially when communities like of color and marginalized communities are under attack, where their rights are being taken away from people like lawmakers. And so a lot of people have like even said to me like, well, I don't want to get political and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I think it's our right and our duty to be political, because like if you care about the people around you, if you care about your community getting resources that you need, well, then you need to vote and you need to get involved in that and work to like afford that right for other people who don't have it. So I think it's become more apparent and necessary how we need to build with each other as communities. And that's long work. Like, I think with our society today, with how technology plays out, it's almost like everything we get is so instantaneous. And we're like, why can't our solutions for the world's toughest problems be like that, where it's like an instantaneous solution, when in reality it's constant, like small steps to that bigger vision and goal. The needle,
right?
Yeah,
which is just as important. Yeah.
And so my good friend Virtual, and I always bring this up in a lot of conversations, he's the one during the pandemic that taught me like hope is a discipline. And I think that's like the strongest thing to like think about, because like as we get older, it's just like this pile of like negative what's happening in the world. We're becoming more aware of everything that's happening. And it's heavy. It's like, you know, we were grieving during the pandemic in a lot of different ways of all the things that were lost, the people that were lost, the moments that we couldn't have. But hope remains like the steadfast discipline, because you have to understand that like we can get to a better place if we believe in it. We can get to a better place if we work towards it. And so it's very, I think, easy in the shorter route to just like then become bitter and like hate the situation and then just let that out in the world. But then like it's a more honorable and respectable thing when you can remain and have hope in the situation of like, I know it's like this right now, but I want it to be like this in the future. And so I think about that a lot when I do community work, because it always sometimes feels like we'll take steps forward and then we'll see something happen in major news where someone's getting hurt and we're stepping back. But when in reality, we are continuously taking smaller steps forward that people don't always recognize and highlight along the way too. But yeah, in that sense, I think we need to celebrate our communities. I think when we are like polarized in the sense and separated, it often is just from fear and like not understanding each other. And that's why I love events so much, is because if we can bridge understanding in the events that we do and like show them a perspective that they never had before, whether it be events and also the other art forms, so like film and cinema, the TV shows and media that we consume and watch, like those are all very important avenues to build more understanding, build more representation of our stories, so people get a bigger picture than just allowing themselves to only pigeonhole and know about one story and path that is not representative of everyone. And so, yeah, I think of community in those ways of like the things that we're creating, how is it building a space for others? The things that we're creating, how is it like hopefully connecting you with other people in the process? And yeah, I think that's how I think about community. So I do think it's become more relevant and necessary to find the community that you want to support and be part of.
We are just about done here, but lastly, where can people keep up with you, and what upcoming projects should they be on the lookout for?
So my website is socialartistry.co. So I put my public events on there. That's, I think, some great spaces that people can come to, check out the World Design Capital experiences that are happening. And then I also do like things like December nights. But yeah, I think those are ways to like really stay connected with me. I also have my personal Instagram, but you can find that if Ace tags me on it.
Yeah, definitely put it.
I like connecting like in person at events. Like I think at experiences, and like if anything I say resonates with anyone, like definitely, like I'm an open book. I'm happy to reach out and connect with you. And like if there's any parts, especially within the Asian Pacific Islander community, that people are just interested in, like we're part of a coalition called the San Diego Asian Pacific Islander Coalition. 40 plus API serving organizations across the county in all spaces, like whether it be mental health, whether it be like business resources, to just cultural events and activations. We have something for everyone, and that's only 40. Like there's like hundreds of organizations that exist, definitely, but I'm like really happy to connect all those pieces and like tap people in wherever they'd like to be tapped into, and just know that there's so many spaces that like people are creating for belonging for others, and there's so many spaces that they can be part of too. Like if you have the time and energy and capacity, like showing up and attending these things goes a long way. Supporting small businesses goes a long way, and then like reaching out to people and just like offering kind words of support like goes a long way too. So
Great. Thank you so much, Lauren. It was a pleasure having you, and I hope we can do this again, and good luck on everything that you're working on. I'll be sure to, I'll put your event schedule in the description. We can all go meet you in person. But thank you again, Lauren.
Yeah, thank you. Angelo.
Angelo.